Guys, good Monday morning. I'm Jerry Miller, and welcome to Real Talk with Keith Smith on the I Love CVille Network, presented by Keller Williams Alliance. Thank you kindly for joining us. A little Father's Day special here. Yours truly, a father, a precocious and active and hyper and full of energy 4-year-old that cannot sit down and cannot stop touching things that are dangerous and could lead to his potential demise. That is our son. Yep. Judah Wittkower is our director. We'll get the studio camera in the mix, and Nikki Chambless in the mix on a two-shot. She put the panel together.
Yes.
Nikki Chambless, good morning, my friend.
Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Yeah. I know you have some precocious, active children of your own.
Well, I do, but mine are a little bit older than I think anyone else here at this table.
So right.
My children are, my youngest just turned 16 last Thursday. Nice. So that happened. Oh, no, a week before last Thursday. I lost a week here. I know the weather and all that jazz. So, so been 16 for a week and a half now, and my oldest is 20. But I will tell you, when my oldest was about 4, I legit put that child in gymnastics because I just could not take another day of using the back of the couch, which was not against a wall, as the balance beam. Because my goal in life was no ER visits.
Very good. Yeah.
So, and we made it quite a long way before that happened. So
we'll welcome the panel to the show, and we'll welcome the fellas to the show. Kerry and Jason. No ER visits, gentlemen, is a good goal.
Yeah.
Kerry, good morning.
That is a
good goal for us as parents with our kids. Happy Father's Day, fellas.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Likewise.
When Nikki said the back of the couch, I was like, thank goodness mine aren't the only ones, because they quite often use my couches as jungle gyms, no matter how many times I tell them, don't jump on the furniture. I think the more I say that, the more inclined they are to do
that. I know.
It's like,
Dad said jump on the furniture?
Yeah, I think that's it.
See, I just take them furniture shopping with me and have them practice in the store.
Techniques.
How was the Father's Day, gentlemen? Was it good?
Wonderful.
Mine was great. I spent mine at the beach with my kids and got to see them get beat up by the waves a little bit, because they don't like to go out far enough where the waves ain't breaking out there, but they like to stay up close where they're all sandy by the time they get out of the beach.
And yours, Jason?
Nice. It was great. You know, we actually took a week off. I took the kids up to D.C. for our first time being tourists in D.C., and it was a wonderful time. The town is amazingly hospitable. The kids definitely want to go back. They loved the hotel, had a pool, and it was walking distance to things. It was a great time. And then yesterday was a little more relaxing, and part of it was just having a nice breakfast with the kids, and then going for a walk, getting to do some reading time, playing some Fortnite with them, and squeezing in a crossword. So it was all wonderful.
You play Fortnite?
I do play Fortnite. Okay. My 9-year-old taught me to play Fortnite.
There you go.
And we play in duos, and last night we played a squad with my nephew and my youngest.
Nice.
Yeah, it was
If
great.
you'd like to give the fellas some well wishes for Happy Father's Day, put them in the feed, and I will relay it live on air. Our friend, Katie Pearl, says Happy Father's Day to 2 wonderful fathers, 3 wonderful fathers over here, Katie. 3
She was talking about you too.
3 wonderful fathers. I want to say that Jason and Kerry are wonderful. I hope I'm certainly wonderful. It depends on the day with my wife, whether I'm wonderful or not. But now that we've acknowledged the special day, Father's Day, we do want to get something out of the notebook about some regular scheduled programming.
So last week I had scheduled to have a Juneteenth geared show. I was really excited about it. I had a wonderful guest from the community, Karen. She was going to be here. She's really amazing. She's talked in our brokerage before about Vinegar Hill and the history of Charlottesville. I was also going to have one of our local realtors as a co-guest for that. I ended up being so sick I could not get myself up and going. Yay, really bad double ear infection. So I'm going to be rescheduling that in the near future. So as soon as I can get everybody's calendars on point, we're definitely going to have that show. Thank you, Jerry.
Absolutely. The fabulous, one of the best mothers in the world, and I think the gentleman to my left, your right on screen, knows who I'm talking about over here. Mary Kirby says, Happy Father's Day to my son, Jason.
Thank you.
We all had a feeling that Mary would participate today.
Yeah, she's in Ireland right now.
Ireland's in the house.
Yes.
Mary Kirby, we hope you enjoy the trip We love when you watch the show. We have noticed you only watch the show when Jason is on the show. We would like it if you watched it when Jason was not on the show, but regardless, we appreciate your watching.
Well, be careful what you wish for.
Okay, you're saying you'll watch.
Oh, she will. She will.
One of my favorite aspects of having your son marry Jason on the show is his vast knowledge of everything real estate. So why don't I get out of the way and say the question you get all the time.
Yeah.
How is the market, Jason Kirby?
That's a very interesting question. I think more so now than in recent history, because I think a lot of the data and the numbers that we look at and examine is all about 30, 45 days old. So our feel for the market, which we can really only gain by working with buyers and sellers on a daily basis, is this, anecdotal feel for the way things are flowing. And what I'm seeing are, in my inbox, regular price reductions on listings. And I'm seeing that across the price threshold, from luxury all the way down to below the median priced home. And part of this is not too surprising. I think that, when we work with sellers and we plan a pricing strategy, we're often looking ahead and we're hoping for the best. But as agents, we want to be also preparing for when it's not the best. And I think part of this is we're seeing these price reductions come down so that listings are being more competitive. If they're not getting 30 showings in the first weekend, the knee-jerk reaction is something's wrong with my home or something's wrong with my agent. And neither is probably the case. And I think what's surprising to me, though, is to see price reductions on homes that are on the market for only 5 days.
Yeah.
That, to me, is actually quite surprising to see.
And
definitely.
And why do you think that is, though? I mean, from a real estate or as a trusted advisor's perspective, why do you think you're starting to see that?
I think part of it is expectations.
Yeah,
Expectations just aren't being met. And when I do talk with sellers who are looking to put their home on the market, part of it is we're hoping to have this wonderful first weekend where we're going to have multiple offers and whatnot. And by the way, this is our plan if we don't.
Yeah.
And it's okay.
Yes.
It all depends upon what is that seller's priority, which usually is a tug of war between time and money. And you see that with a lot of your clients too, right?
Yeah, and with his, like Jason said, you got to have that conversation and set those expectations right up front. Because if you don't, they've been conditioned for the past, 6-9 months that, hey, my friend just sold their house in 48 hours. And so we're starting to see things stay on the market just a little bit longer than what they have been. And, you just plan ahead of that and you have that conversation up front. Hey, listen, our goal is to get as many people through the door on the first weekend that we can. But if it's on the market for the 2 weeks and you're not getting the activity that you may want, just be prepared for that. And having those conversations about price reduction up front, I think will save you a lot of headache in the long run, instead of, going to your sellers' clients and saying, hey, we may need to do a price reduction. They oftentimes tell me, say, hey, listen, we're at that, 10, 14-day mark. Should we consider a price reduction? Well, yeah, if the house is not moving, yeah.
I think what's interesting is, too, a lot of the sellers that you and I talk to are also in the market to look for a home when they get their home under contract. So part of it is, hey, good news is, you're going to possibly not have to pay over 10% over list for the next home you want to buy. Side note, you're also probably not going to get 10% over list for your home that's on the market. So it's a very lateral kind of feeling. And I think really when I talk with buyers, they would make that trade day in, day out if it meant they had more homes to go look at. I took some clients out the week before last, and there were 4 or 5 just sitting there waiting for us to go show them. And the listing agents were solicitous and asking for feedback and telling me about potential reductions or what could they do. And it was like a normal market again. And I like that.
Do you see that more sellers are starting to talk to you instead of you having a market to sellers now that they see the market starting to soften up a little bit and they see that more inventory is on the market and not going so quickly? Do you see more sellers coming to you?
I think so.
You guys are getting approached.
Yeah,
and I think
before you were hustling those first-time contacts.
I think so, and I think that part of it is that these are probably folks that were going to contact us at some point or another over the course of the year, but it's the fear of missing the boat.
Yeah,
and I think this is especially critical for sellers who are not buying into the market, who are maybe selling an investment property or a second home. Or relocating somewhere where they're going to rent for a while. And so part of their thinking, their calculus has to be, gosh, should I be timing the market? Should I hurry up and do something right now?
Let me throw this to you guys, and I'll throw it to you, Nikki. Luke Dravo is giving Kerry props.
Hey, Luke.
Kate Lucas, what's up? KWA in the house right now.
Yeah.
Amanda Spagoni says, Happy Father's Day.
Awesome.
3 awesome dads on set. Thank you, Amanda
Thank
Spagoni,
you.
for including me right there. Amanda Spagoni. Okay, this is what I want to throw to you guys. When do you, or how do you have the conversation with your clients? The market has changed. This is not going to be one weekend, dog and pony show, people coming to the open house 1 hour before the open house, camping out like we're going to a Kanye concert.
Right, right.
Instead, this is a balanced market and not a Kanye concert.
Yeah.
How do you have that conversation? Explain that to them, because this has got to be a conversation that probably brings some I missed it? Really? Did that happen? Is that happening now?
I haven't seen exactly that emotion yet.
Okay.
But the fear of that, and I think we will see that though for certain clients, but I think it really comes back down to agents doing the things they should have been doing all along.
Ooh.
Pricing correctly, giving good advice, marketing properties for the long term, and having a plan to keep in touch with their clients. And you hit the nail on the head, managing those expectations.
Yep.
For a period of time, it has, things have been flying off the shelves. So I think we have seen some lax attitude in regard to those fundamental pieces of our business.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it's really easy to get caught up in that whole fear of missing out. But if you bring it back down to what someone really wants, it's like, whoa, okay, take a few deep breaths, because what you really want has nothing to do with this over here. It's just really easy to get caught up in it, right?
Yeah.
In the interest rates, in the days on market. But a lot of times that really doesn't impact in a huge way someone who's buying or selling a house, other than, hey, let's have a conversation. What is it you want? Here are the steps to take. Here's what to expect. And I think that managing expectations is huge.
Goes from buyers thinking competitively all the time to sellers starting to go back to thinking competitively. If a home much like yours down the street is for sale and it's several thousand under your list price, we may need to wait for that home to sell before yours gets the attention. And so we have to think competitively.
Yeah, I usually tell my clients when I'm meeting with them for the first time, anybody with the pulse for the last 2 years could get lucky in selling your home because the market has been so hot. But now that we're starting to see a little bit of a shift, it's just a different market. We all thought COVID was going to slow us down. In reality, for most of us across the board, it has accelerated our business further than what we could have ever imagined, with appreciation values around 15%. And now you're starting to have to look at what people can actually offer. Marketing, marketing your home correctly, getting it out to as many platforms as you possibly could, and just setting those expectations up front. Pricing strategy is going to be huge. Like Jason said, if you have a house that's priced for several $1,000s under what yours is, and it could be an identical floor plan. I actually had a scenario like this last week. Identical floor plan. I said, you have a couple different options here. I like to set the price point at the market tone and let the buyers come to us versus trying to grab for as much as you can. And that's what we were talking about, the price reductions in the emails. After 5 days, I don't want to have to go back to the market and adjust your price just to see what we can get. Let's do it effectively. Let's market it correctly, and let's get people through the door.
Great answer right there. Absolutely great answer. Are the interest rates truly spooking the market to the point where you're seeing the buyer pool depleted to balance levels? Is this characterized as a balanced market?
I think that we're not in a balanced market. Because of the supply and demand issue. But what I think we're noticing is this disparity between the seller expectations that we've talked about and what buyers simply are able to do. And if we're talking with a client 60 days ago and we pick a particular price for their home to sell on the market, not even factoring in anything else, that increase in interest rates has dramatically impacted the cost of that home. And that has to be a part of our conversation with our seller clients is, all things remaining equal, your home is 20% more expensive than it was maybe just within the past 90 days. And it has nothing to do with appreciation. It has to just to do with the interest rate.
How high do you think they're going to go, Kerry and Nikki? And will they come back down? We're talking rates here.
You know, if you look at, I think there's a lot of conversation that needs to be had around the interest rate. The last 2 years we've been conditioned, you know, it's always the conversation around interest rate. Hey, I got a 3% interest rate. That's great, you know, and people did take advantage of that opportunity, you know, but if you look at like a 10, 12-year average, that interest rate's around 6.5%, 7%. So it's always still a good, it's a good investment putting it into a home, in my opinion. You know, it depends on everybody's needs, you know. If you're only going to be here for 2 years, yeah, it makes sense to rent. But if you're going to be here for a long term and you're going to put your roots down here, or if you got a job opportunity here, I still think it's a great time to buy. And then you have the opportunity, Nikki said it earlier this morning, somebody had sent her a message, but it also, fall in love with a house and date the interest rate, right? And I believe that is
marry the house,
date
the rate.
And so you can always refinance down the road if we get another opportunity like this. But, you know, now is an opportunity for those buyers out there because you don't have as many buyers competing for the same house. So take advantage of that opportunity. There's always some silver lining across the board. Do I think the rates will come back down? Yeah. You know, this is the Fed's way. They have their hand on the lever to slow down inflation, in my opinion.
Great take right there, Kerry. You said marry the house, date the rate.
Yes.
Talk to me about that.
Well, so you're looking for a house. This is a long-term deal, right? Rates are going to come and go. They're going to change. And so the goal really is to find that house that you want, especially for those many, many people who are either looking for their lifelong home or their 10 to 15-year place to live and grow their family. They're worried about schools and neighborhoods and kids of the same age, all these things that people ask about, right? Rates are going to change. So get that home that's going to work well for you long term if that is your deal, right? And the rates, if there's a better one, awesome. You can hit that up later. Any smart homeowner, and you've seen that in the last 3 years, people have been refinancing like it is going out of style, right? That's a normal thing to do. And if they don't go back down and they only go up, then you're at a rate that you're really, really glad you grabbed now.
Great take right there.
I like that one.
Check your Facebook Messenger if you could for a message from our director. Jason, I'm going to throw this to you. Do we expect that this is going to have an unfortunate impact with affordability housing in this area? Rates increasing, prices on homes. So, I mean, the buyer's going to get both ways. The assessments have gone up in the city of Charlottesville on average 12% year over year.
Yeah.
Now rates have doubled.
Yes.
So, I mean, from an affordability standpoint, the house 2 years ago is considerably more expensive today. Give us your take or your crystal ball on what that's going to do for affordability around here.
I think affordability will continue to be a challenge. And I think for right now, what we're talking about in this shift in the market that we're seeing is this gap between seller expectations and what buyers' needs are. And so for a period of time, I think it's going to look a little disturbing, and then it will eventually even itself out. Ultimately, every day buyers make a market. Right, it's what someone is willing to pay that's going to determine what the price of something is. But if we continue to have a restricted supply of new housing in the market, and we still have, regardless of what days on market are, if we're still looking at if we have 1 month supply of housing, and we go up and our inventory doubles, that would seem pretty shocking and great to us working with buyers as well. But that's still a very strong seller's market. So no, I think you're right. We have a problem with affordability for sure. And if there was some community with 10, 15,000 homes coming online soon, you might talk about, okay, the inventory is really going to balance out and prices will level off.
Well, that's not happening.
No, it is not happening.
Are you pivoting your strategy as an agent, Kerry and Jason and Nikki? I know, Nikki, you're a team leader, but you're consulting with a lot of agents.
Yeah.
I mean, the first-time home buyer agent is in a tough spot right now.
Yeah, I think they are. It's, again, you got to manage the expectations, have that conversation. What are your needs? Okay, well, this is your budget. If it doesn't fit in the circle of Charlottesville or, any place where you're working, then you're going to have to expand out a little bit. And okay, well, what are you comfortable with on your drives? And so for the first-time home buyers, you know, I have a checklist for these guys because they're oftentimes lost. They've never been in this arena before, is where we take it for granted. We're so used to this, we can rattle it off the top of our head. So I have, you know, strategies that I use. I have a checklist that I send them prior to showing houses and let them know what we're going to be getting into. You know, if they can have if they have all their ducks in a row, which, you know, a lot of first-time home buyers, you're about 50-50. Some are really on top of it, some are not. But if they have their ducks in a row, you can move a little bit faster. Strategy-wise, if they can't afford to be in the center of whatever community you're working, then you expand out a little bit. And yeah, we've had to shift our strategies, but I don't think it's just for first-time home buyers. I think just the shift in general about how we approach things in this new market is going to be key for us real estate agents.
What do you think, Nikki?
Well, I think a lot of it, too, is that whole being on top of the market, right? Monday before last, we had this big thing at our brokerage with Quentin Beckham talking to us about where the market is, the economics behind it. These are regular conversations that we have with each other as real estate professionals, and that is really important. I could not imagine doing the last 3 years without having that team of people to connect with and to sharpen each other. We have these conversations, like we had a pre-show coffee this morning. We have those type of conversations on a regular basis.
Guajiros?
So not this morning, because we just needed to be really close, so we did Mud House, but you know I love some guajiros.
Pie chest?
What's that? No, we did Mud House because it was right there. Walking distance. Yeah.
Very
but
nice.
I love guajiros so
I know you
very
do.
much.
I know you do.
And they give me space even when they don't have a lot, and I appreciate them for that. So, but being able to have these conversations, we're not being reactive, we're being proactive, and that's really key. And that makes a huge difference in how we advise our clients and our agents. And we reach out and we extend that to the real estate community because we want us to all know what's going on. So the classes that we have are open to all realtors. That's a really key thing. Jason's about to teach how to win the listing in this shifting market this Thursday.
Well, why don't we throw this to you guys? Here's a very tough question.
Yeah.
Which brokerages are best suited to come out of this very changing landscape? What, and you don't have to say by name.
Yeah, exactly.
But characteristics
setup
of the brokerages.
Yeah.
I think any brokerage that has ongoing conversations about helping agents own a business and what does that look like?
Yes.
And even beyond that, how do you have something that you are in control of rather than a business that is in control of you? But if you are at a brokerage where there's no ongoing conversation about what are your goals, what does success look like for you, and how can we get you there, then you're kind of just flying blind in this market. And I know what that's like from when I got into real estate a very long time ago. I worked at a 100% commission company, which was structured in such that, you know, you paid a large desk fee and there was no mentorship or guidance or coaching. And fortunately, I had a private mentor that was amazing. But there are a lot of places that I understand that don't have that kind of infrastructure or regular training to help people get off the ground. This is an incredibly hard time to get into our industry, and I love it when people are excited and want to get into real estate, but I'm also fearful for them going into an environment where they're not given good guidance, they're not pointed in the right direction. There are so many different things one can do, but there are only a few things one should be doing to succeed.
Yeah. You have so much information, especially as agents, newer agents. You know, I couldn't imagine, again, going back to that stage, but you're so inundated with information. You know, you have these companies that can help you do this, help you do that. But even if you go to, like for me, I went to the KW family reunion. There were so many heavy hitters in there that ran their business differently. If you look in our brokerage, me and Jason run our business totally different, but we're still very successful at what we do. And so just being out, you have to kind of hone in on what you really are trying to do. And although you may have 10 items that you can learn from, or I'm sorry, you may have 100 items that you can learn from, picking 3 of those and really diving into those and getting the training that you need. And like you said, the mentorship, having somebody that can guide you during that process is going to be key. And I think training is going to be the biggest strength that brokerages need to start pouring back into their agents, because that makes all the difference. The market is ever shifting, so what was working 2 years ago is not going to work in this market. So if you're not constantly training and have your finger on the pulse, you may not come out of this market.
I think something that occurred to me too is in the office that I work in, We share information and best practices. There are no secrets to success in our office. And you can stop anyone in the hallway and ask a question, whether it's from the very beginning to something a little more advanced. And someone will sit down and guide you through what they do and show you what they do. And I know I love that. I love being able to answer those questions, and I love when I have a problem, I can take you aside and say, hey, I have a problem. Can you help me with this? What do you do?
Yeah.
And you make time for me.
And even not just the new agents, but these are experienced agents too, because we all operate in a different arena. You know, I do a lot of land and new construction, and whereas maybe Jason doesn't. And so when he has a land question, he can always come and ask me, and vice versa. If I'm dealing with something that I think he may have expertise in, I go to him as well. And so most people's doors are always open, and you can ask those questions, and they're very likely to share with you.
Yeah,
so
you're not going to succeed on your own.
There's a lot of comments coming in here. I'll throw this to Nikki to start.
Right.
This is from Neil Williamson, the president of the Free Enterprise Forum, just a
we know
great
Neil.
friend
I
of the
never
show.
would
We
write
love
that,
you,
but
Neil.
They should.
He says restricted supply impacts local affordability significantly more than interest rates, at least thus far. And he says more housing everywhere for everyone. Amanda Spagoni on a different Facebook page adds this comment, which is similar to Neil's. What do you think about the slowdown in home building and the long-term effects that will have on the market today? So two comments very similar. The local market has seen a slowdown in starts. Keith Smith, in fact, sent an email about this to me over the weekend. Maybe it was this morning.
Yeah.
We're seeing the small boutique custom builder really struggle because they don't have the cash position that, say, like a production builder does. So the building we are seeing is probably more from the production builder. So both Neil and Amanda want to take, Nikki, you go first here, on the slowdown of new construction and the impact it's having on housing affordability and the impact it'll have on the market.
I think that's a challenge because I feel like one of the conversations that have been ongoing in this affordability conversation is the fact that a lack of new builds over the 10 plus years is part of why we're here today, and them struggling yet again is just going to continue that, right? And yes, it definitely impacts affordability. I think the interest rates do as well, but I think you're right, that low inventory crunch impacts affordability much more than the interest rates, because the interest rates, I've seen a lot of those, the people on the lower buying end, they've shifted where they're thinking. They're shifting to saving for a down payment, whereas before they didn't need to, right? So they're able to take that shift and run with it. What they can't do is buy a house if it's not there, right?
Jay, what do you think? What do you think, Kerry?
So, I think there's there's a broad spectrum of what builders are doing right now. I think some of them may be a little bit concerned about the price of material and where they're going to be 8 months from now when they actually do finally build on that home. And I think there are some of them that are holding back just a little bit because they're not sure what the interest rates are going to be doing. So it's this fine little dance. I mean, we've seen it in 2008. That was a different animal in general, but they stopped building from 2010 to like 2015 like they were, and that's where we're having like an inventory problem now. I don't think we're in that same kind of market, but I think that there's a little bit of hesitation with the price of material and where they're going to be at from 8 months from now, and I think that a little bit of it has to do with the interest rate as well. So I'm curious just to see, what happens in the next 4 months. Are they going to continue building? I know some builders out there will not even start construction until they have a contract in place. And then I have some builders that are actually building a house almost to completion 30, 60 days out, and then they'll start marketing it. Then they know they can lock in that rate, and then a buyer will be ready to go. And they can put their finger on the pulse a little bit better about where the cost of that finished product is going to be.
Jason?
It's concerning. It's actually the area of our industry that I'm the most concerned about because I have no clue how it's going to shake out. But we're going from tailwinds into headwinds in this industry, okay, from any perspective. And typically those tailwinds should have been great, wonderful, profitable periods that help you through the headwind. But the builders have not experienced that. Some of them have been eaten alive by rising costs. There's a major builder, an entire state of their operation. An entire state is not going to see any profit because of rising costs. And I think that what So they don't have those kinds of reserves or experiences to go through what I think is ahead. And so I'm not surprised to see them being cautious and being prudent and scaling back operations, which comes back to affordability. It all comes back to affordability. And what can be done about that? We could try to make the lives of builders easier. And that's more of a governmental thing and a zoning thing.
What do you think would be more beneficial for the builders? Just any of my builders out there, I'm happy to hear your comments on this.
We got a few watching.
Would you rather have a contract with a fixed price, or would you rather have a cost plus contract with your client?
Well, the contract with the fixed price, and what Kerry's referencing is escalators associated with cost of goods increases during the building process. And a contract with the fixed price, from my take, the layman, would be the way to go, because it sets expectations.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, this is the cost from here on the end. There's no surprises. Like, I mean, if you're building a house and you're stretching your budget, and then you get an email from your builder, cost of goods, wood, lumber is spiking, you're going to owe us an extra $30,000. That would be irritating.
Yeah. I've been there.
Really?
I've had a contract come back like that, and the buyer was super upset, and I'm like, that's the market we're in, and that's why I always encourage them, read through the contract very thoroughly, because most of the builder contracts have those clauses in there already built in.
Because they got burned during the pandemic.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they learned from it. Michael Buchensky on this topic for the panel. He is a mortgage broker, and he's an all-around A-plus guy, fantastic basketball coach. His beard game is on point.
Nice.
Michael Buchensky, the majority of builders we are working with are building it to spec and then offering it for sale once it's about 60 days from closing, to allow clients to be able to lock in their rate. That's what Kerry confirmed as well. He also adds a second comment. Cost plus gives the builder the benefit to remain profitable at the expected level. Fixed contract is mainly beneficial to the buyer because they know there's one less qualification issue to run into. Absolutely. That's absolutely right. So what Buchensky is talking about, cost plus, if cost of goods go up, the man or the woman that's offering the financing, the institution that's offering the financing, that's a wrinkle for them. Because if someone's budget's completely stretched, and next thing you know they have to come up with another $30,000 because lumber went through the roof, you got to find the money.
Yeah.
So it's got to find somewhere. Neil, specifically for Kerry, perhaps a better question for those clients financing, what would the bank prefer?
Yeah, that's true. And I think that it would be due diligence of the builder would need to know the budget of that. It's kind of hard. Just having these conversations between the builder and the client and just setting those expectations, say, hey, listen, and I think most buyers are pretty aware. I mean, we see what's going on in the market, so we're in it actively already. But I think buyers are a little more savvy than what they've been in the past. They really do their research, so they got their finger on the pulse of the market too. They know material costs are going up, and so they're making the conscious decision whether to enter that contract or not. And each builder has their place. You have some builders that give you the best price per square foot, but maybe not all the bells and whistles to it. And those that do offer, an array of choices that you can choose, but it may come at a cost, at a premium, and that's what I'm talking about, the cost plus right there. They may understand their budget a little bit better, and they may be willing to do that as long as they're getting the house that they want, not just the house that they need for the moment.
I think, too, what's interesting is many of the buyers that I've worked with over the past 24 months, and you've probably had similar experiences, whether they're first-time home buyers or it's their third home, they are very strategic and wise in how they approach their housing budget. And I don't think I've had a single client push the envelope in terms of their debt-to-income ratio. They're all, boxing below their weight. And so when we do have these added unforeseen events, they can weather them because they've been thinking, well, look, the lender said I can go up here, but I'm going to stay down here because I look at my monthly budget. I want to be prudent and careful. So in a new construction situation, you're getting the advantage of a wonderful new home, but we can try to build in risk and allow that buffer in there. But again, it all comes back down to price. It's going to be people wanting maybe something smaller than a gargantuan Frankenhouse.
And us as agents, we try to communicate as best as we can with the lender to let them know what's going on. up front, and so they can have these conversations with the client as well. I feel like any great agent is going to have a great line of communication with their lender, and we work as a unit. When we're trying to push the ball forward, we have to do it together as a team: buyer, lender, closing company, real estate agent. So I think communicating with all parties is what's going to make it the best and suitable experience for the buyer.
I think what Mike B said about building on spec is a great option. I think it protects everyone. It provides us a little more flow into the market where we can say, hey, 60 days out, we can go ahead and offer this home to someone.
There's a lot of resistance, though, especially from the smaller guys, to build on spec.
It is. It's risky.
One of them's our client. I mean, a lot of folks that watch this program know Dominion Custom Homes is
I love Dominion.
Is John Kerber's the brand we represent here at V&V Brands.
Yeah.
And I respect his position because he doesn't want to. I mean, everyone learned from 08, 9, 10, and he doesn't want to put himself out there.
Yeah.
I agree. I think there's also a difference between building on spec for a more medium-priced home and building on spec for the luxury level.
Oh, what does that mean?
Well, for example, if we're building a home on spec that's going to be a $1.5 million home, I think I'm not big. I know you're bigger in that trade and you've got more experience. That sounds very risky. Whereas if we're building on spec closer to the median, we have a little more reasonable expectation in what we're going to get 60 days from finish date.
So you're saying if it's a $400,000 or $500,000 spec home, you know it's going to sell. You have less risk.
I think much less risk. And we're seeing some new construction around Charlottesville. I mean, it's attached, but we're around 400, which is nice.
Is that 29 North? You're talking? You're referencing?
Well, we've got I was thinking Berkmar Overlook.
Okay.
Ryan Homes has some attached homes around the 420s starting, and it's a 3-bedroom, but we've got Brook Hill Commons as well with Stanley Martin, and I think typically we're going to see those builders trying to serve and get closer to the median price point. But I also think that when we're talking about over $1 million, we're also dealing typically with home buyers that can weather a variety of economic issues and still manage their housing situation okay.
There's a lot of comments coming in from brokers, agents, mortgage officers, and folks in construction. All right, so we have also, let's welcome our friends from Nest to the program, Real Estate 3 to the program, Logan Foster to the program. This is from Buchensky, Michael Buchensky. Great comment. When Buchensky watches the show, he makes the show better. He says the bank would prefer that the client qualifies for the loan just to simplify it. 100%. I'm qualifying clients at interest rates 1 or 1.5% above current market because I honestly think we're going to see interest rates in the 7% range, maybe close to 8% before this all settles down. And then in the next 12 to 24 months, the recession will hit in full force, and the Fed will have to start cutting rates, so everyone who has a high interest rate, 5, 6, 7, 8%, will have an opportunity to refinance. The moral of the story is the current higher interest rates are going to be the client's forever interest rate, but we still have to get through this hard time. Are not going to be the client's forever interest rate, but we still have to get through this hard time, is what he says.
Ooh, I'm glad you said that, Michael. And that just echoes what we were talking about earlier. Get the house that you want now, because you can always weather the storm. Well, if you can weather the storm of the higher interest rate, you'll have that opportunity to refinance down the road. That's exactly how I did it, and I ended up saving myself a couple $100 a month. And I love where I live, but at the time, people were telling me 6.5%, 7% interest rates. So, that's a little high. It still got me the home I wanted, and then when it was a better market for interest rates, I refinanced, and I love where I live at. The only thing I would need more now that my family is growing.
Are you at the lake? Is that where you're at?
No, I'm in Zion's Crossroads, just a little bit off. I'm on, Bybee Church Road, so it's a beautiful place out there. I think that it's still a great market to buy in, even at 7-8% interest rate, and you're fixing your costs right now. You're not at the mercy of a landlord raising their rents. And it's a fixed cost. You can at least budget that out.
Yeah, that is very, very true. I get that 7 and 8% are high compared to what we've seen.
He just said it's going 7, 8%.
Right. Well, I get that, but here's the thing: and it's really high for a lot of adults who have only known 5 or lower, right? But if we really think about that, that's not that high of a rate. And I would even say for a lot of people who use debt in their life, what are those other interest rates?
Ooh, good point.
What are your credit card interest rates, and how often do you use them and have to pay interest, right? If you don't ever pay interest on credit cards, cool. If you don't ever finance a vehicle, this is not for you. But if you do, what are those interest rates? And I would say consider those are things that are not assets. I mean, unless you're buying one of those really bougie purses, like, and I don't remember what they are, but I have a friend at work who does. Those are assets. Everything
Who's
else
the
you
friend?
put on that.
Who's the
Kelsey
friend?
Waters.
Oh, very nice. Kelsey.
That's a great
So,
point.
She has champagne
but unless
taste?
it's one of those, the girl knows her fine things,
Yeah.
I have to say. And she's in finance, so she's in the right spot.
Yeah.
But unless it's one of those bougie bags that I don't know the brand name of because I don't know these things, those are not assets that you're putting on those cards more than likely. Those are not assets that you're financing. So when you're talking about a home, that depending on how you use it, could very well be an asset, technically is. I just say when we're talking about our own home as an investment, I say step back because unless you're going to treat it like one, don't call it one, right?
Yeah, it's consumable.
But think about this. It's really not that high of an interest rate. Does it change things? Absolutely. That's life. It changes. What are you going to do with it, right? This is an opportunity if you want it to be.
What do you think, Kerry?
No, I agree with her. I'm a high five on that one, Nikki, actually. Everywhere else in your life, you have interest rates around you, your credit card, your car payment, those kind of things. But it only happens to be a conversation around your housing. There's 3 things that every human will need to live, and some can argue it, but, 3 things, in my opinion, that everybody's going to need to live. Food, water, and shelter. And the only one that they talk about interest rate is on the housing itself. So, just put it in perspective. Right? Do you need that fancy car that you're driving around, or do you need somewhere to lay your head? Maybe a little bit of both. In my opinion, I'd rather put my money towards a house. I know that I'm going to get some equity back in that if I put a little bit of sweat equity in it. I'm a contractor. I like to do little projects around a house. You'd be surprised what paint and a little bit of crown mold will do. Or a deck. Sorry, honey, I haven't built her a deck. I've told her for 10 years that I was going to put a deck on the house, and I haven't made it to it yet. We'll probably move before I actually get to building it.
You might need to do that.
Yeah, but honestly, having the house where it's an investment in my opinion. It's investment. It's not the American dream, like it was 50 years ago, where you buy a house and then you sell it in 20 years and then you double your equity into it, or you may. But I think of it as a money placeholder, right? So it's that you're going to get the equity back out of it. You live in there for 5 years, should be able to get the equity back out of it, and versus throwing your money away at rent.
Jason Kirby.
I think perspective is, one of you said the word perspective, and I think that's key here when we talk with our colleagues and we talk with our clients. Perspective is that interest rates on average are 8% historically. Perspective on average is that appreciation on real estate is 3.5% a year, not 30% a year, 3.5% a year. Perspective is that rents go up on average 3% per year. And so when we look at what's been going on over the past 24 months, we shouldn't be building a life around those experiences. We should be thinking longer term, bigger picture. If we are, like Mike B mentions, going into these economic headwinds and having issues maybe in the economy in general, we should be asking good personal finance questions of each other, like, well, if we're dealing with a spouse, 2 spouses that are buying a home together, what if one of you had a 50% cut in your income? Could you still afford the mortgage and go on vacation and do the things that you like to do? What if you went down to 1 income in the next 24 months? Could you still do everything and not be forced to sell your home? And these are questions we should always ask, but we've been kind of going through these go-go years where it's like caution to the wind. Let's just do this. Everything goes up. Ask any Bitcoin holder, does everything go up? I didn't do that just to you.
Yeah.
But are you in Bitcoin?
Yeah, I like it all.
You're in crypto, Kerry?
I like all cryptos.
Yeah.
Some have a utility.
But things tend to revert back to that mean, right? So I was talking to someone yesterday about inflation, and we were talking about housing inflation. We were talking about the general inflation rate of 8%. Well, they were talking about real estate and expectations, and that real estate beats inflation. And while yes, that's all good and true and historically bears out, what if we just experienced all the inflation in advance? What if we were ground zero for inflation? We should be thinking about that when we talk to investors. Maybe they won't get the kind of dynamic appreciation over the next 12 months, but the deals should still make good sense for them in their overall picture.
Yes.
So first let's acknowledge viewers and listeners. Levy Kinslow, giving you props. Johnny Williamson, giving you props. A handful of Real Estate 3 watching the program as we speak here. Drew Sersky, giving you some props right now. Welcome to the program. I see 2 former car presidents watching the show. Say we're, depending on who you talk to, we're in a recession. Okay? Say it's a recession. We're in a recession. The next, 1, 2, 3 quarters are going to be tough. We don't know what the deal is with the war, Ukraine-Russia war. If that ends, that obviously is going to alleviate a lot of stress. Most importantly, it's going to stop human suffering.
Yeah.
It's also going to alleviate a lot of financial stress. If we have a recession, we're in it, what's it do to this market? What's it do to you guys? What's it do to these firms? What's it do to the number of agents that are in the business? Mm-hmm. What's it do to buyers and sellers here? How about answers from each position?
I think in terms of recession, we can have a healthy, functioning real estate industry in a recession. It's just that the last one, we were ground zero for that recession. They're not all like that. Also, I think it's important to remember that real estate is local. It's a hyper-local market and industry. And the Great Depression and the Great Recession were national events that impacted housing, but for the most part, housing is a very regional thing. And this local market is a kind of a harbor and is protected due to the strong employment bases we have here. So I think it's a magnet for investment. It's a magnet for people to come and become stakeholders and owners. What I think it happens to our industry is, even with the tight inventory, we looked at a 15% reduction on average from last year to this year in the number of deals that were happening. According to Fannie Mae, by the end of 2023, we'll be doing 2/3 of the business we did in 2021. So my challenge to all my fellow colleagues out there is, what are they going to be doing differently over the next 24 months that's at least going to earn them as much money as they made last year and thriving, or possibly more and taking advantage of the new opportunities down the road? But you most certainly can't be doing what you were doing before.
I always love working with Jason, or just having him around as another coworker or colleague.
Such a great resource.
He's great, and he's very calculated and very well thought out. I'm a little more of like an optimistic person, shoot from the hip. But I think there's going to be pockets of opportunity in any market. If we are in a recession or going towards a recession, then we're just going to shift and pivot a little bit. It may take out a couple more buyers in the buyer pool than what we have, but there's opportunities there too. Mm-hmm. We talk with investors or people that are looking to be property owners or residual income. I know there's a lot of people that are in that space that may not have had the best experience with real estate agents because it's been so boom, boom, boom. And like I said, the past 2 years, everybody has been, kind of a little bit relaxed, and then, houses have been kind of selling on their own. But now, if you have true marketing skills, there's a couple agents around town that do it very, very well. You have those great marketing skills, you're going to be able to still sell homes. Even, we talk about interest rate a whole lot. They were still selling homes at 17% interest rate, so there's always going to be pockets of opportunity. Definitely. Now, what's going to change, in my opinion, is those agents that have just been at the right place at the right time, that are not taking advantage of some of these classes, like what Jason's teaching about how to win a listing. Those agents that aren't constantly training and shifting how they do business, those are the ones that are going to be left behind. And I don't mean that they're going to fall out of the industry. I think, but by the time they realize that they need to do something different, they're already behind the curve. So you got to do something and prepare now. You got to constantly be training and constantly be getting better at what you do. And that's in any industry, not just real estate. So if you're not constantly sharpening your skills, you're going to be behind the 8 ball.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm not going to answer your whole question, because what these two wonderful entrepreneurs just said kind of stirred me back to earlier when we were talking about that business side of things. It's about running a business. So when we're talking about recession-proofing your real estate business, the key word there is business. And how many of us really treat our real estate business as such? Or are we out there winging it? Or is it a side hustle? Or do we think we're running a business, but really it is running us into the ground? Mm-hmm. And I think there are probably a lot of us who can relate to that sentiment. And there is a season where I would say, you know what? Go after it. Hustle yourself burnt, right? If you have to, if that's the way you want to run, but do it with a solid plan, right? Have a set plan. Have something that is your touchstone to rein you in. It is, oh my God, real estate business is either the best thing or the worst version of like an ADHD shiny. Like, right? I think I'm in a table full of at least 2 other people who can relate to this. Yeah. Jerry and Kerry.
Yeah.
But truly, because there are so many things you can go after. There's so many things you can do. Oh my God, what about Facebook? And what about Instagram? And so many rabbit holes that you can jump down and dive into and feel like you're getting so much done. And guess what you're doing? You are spinning your wheels.
You're busy, but not
You are
productive.
so busy.
Yeah.
Busy is not what runs a business. Like truly, I can sit a kindergartner down with some crayons, markers, and give them a house with walls, and they'll stay busy for a really long time and possibly scarily quiet, right?
Yeah.
But that is not how you run a business. You need to make sure that your attention is focused, that you have a plan. What are your business goals? What is your business plan? Do you have one? Right? Do
Drop
you
of
have
knowledge
one?
right there.
Because, well, that's so important. Before I did this, I was in bookkeeping. And one of the things that I noticed about business owners is for businesses that I was impressed by and that I thought were great, there was a lot of winging it going on. And there is an element of winging it that you have to be able to do, I think, to run a business, especially real estate. But it needs to be based around a skeleton of structure, right? It can't just be all gooey flesh.
You need to be adaptable, but you have to have a goal that you're going toward. And that goal can move. That's a moving target.
Oh, absolutely.
But there has
It's
to
a
be
living document,
purposeful
right?
activity and direction.
Yes.
Some direction.
Well, there has to be some really good direction, or you really are just going to keep yourself busy. When you're first getting on real estate, you need to pick one or two things that are your one or two things and get really darn good at it.
Yeah.
That's it. Not 4, not 5, not, ooh, shiny. And you need to do it for a period of time, right?
Yeah, you have to be able to test it and measure the results.
And you actually have to go after it, because I feel like some people, for example, my favorite example is like, oh, I did an open house. I don't think they work so well. I'm like, well, did you work it? Because I hella worked some open houses. And did you do this, this, and this? And what was your plan? And how many weeks prep did you put into it? What type of marketing did you do? And then I get that jaw drop, blank stare, and the headlights look. And what I know is they didn't actually do it, right? They showed up and they talked to some people. That's not running a business. Part of that can be the learning curve, but don't do that for too long or you're just wasting your time. Your time is valuable.
Let's go to Woody Fincham for the panel.
Yeah.
Woody Fincham of Fincham and Associates, trusted brand guys. Housing ownership is much better than renting in most situations. Rents have grown and continue to grow. In a recent study, Realtor.com says the average price surged nearly 20% rentals in the past year. Virginia is ranked number 19, according to Realtor.com, for the highest states to rent out of 50 in our free union. That's according to March 2022. So 19 in the country, Virginia, for most expensive rents. Buchensky is not as worried about a recession. Michael Buchensky says jobs help protect against recession in the Charlottesville area. It's a job magnet when it comes to the hospital, the university, the government entities, NGIC, etc. The country as a whole may get hit by a recession, but Charlottesville will not be hit as hard.
Well, I think that's where Kerry was coming at from his optimism, and Jason was talking about that hyper-local market.
Yeah, like, before I moved down here, because my experience was in the Phoenix market, which is very boom-bust.
Yeah.
You know, there were people that got 40%, 50% haircuts on the value of their home within 12 months. And so on my way down here, literally in the car, I was looking at the old Association of Realtors reports from 08, 09, and 010. And instead of you seeing these peaks and valleys, you just saw this like shallow trough in terms of valuation here, which taught me some interesting things about the market and how resilient it is here, for sure.
This is from Grayson. This is a good question. Jerry, on previous shows, you've asked the experts, is $1 million now the luxury market, or is it much higher than $1 million? You've had people on the show that say $1 million is no longer the luxury market. Can you ask these three panelists that question?
Depends on where you're at. You know, if you're in the center of Charlottesville, probably not. If you're on the outskirts of Charlottesville, Albemarle County, you know, not so far all the way out in Albemarle County is $1 million luxury market. Depends on where you are. I still think $1 million is pretty luxury, considering most median price points for agents are around $400,000. So I would say, yeah, $1 million is probably luxury unless you're in the city of Charlottesville.
You know, the term luxury is so relative, and it's thrown around so much. And I think, like you said, it not only depends upon where you are in the market, it depends on who you are as a buyer. right? There are some people that if they see a pot filler on the wall, they think that's luxury, right? That you can just throw a pot on the stove and fill it with the pasta, and that's like a luxury move right there, right? But for some people, they're like, well, that's not exciting. And for a while, backsplashes made people's eyes go wide. And back in the day, it was Corian countertops that made people really excited and hop up and down, right? So I think it's a very relative thing. I think if the International Luxury Home Marketing Institute says the top 10% of any market is technically luxury. So there's a standard you could use, and it's just shy of $1 million here. I think it might be around 900,000. So if you want to be technical about it, the top 10%, the cream of the value is right around there.
So $1 million is still luxury.
Yeah.
Technically.
Well, if we're talking about the top 10% of our market, but our market area is so varied, that's one of those where you might want to just, as a technicality, absolutely, that's correct. But you might want to be like, okay, what's the top 10% of Charlottesville, city of, right?
Very good.
If you really want an accurate take.
There are mass production builders making $650,000 homes. So I think this is going to shift upward.
Yeah.
It's just that we don't have a nice, easy, round number anymore to point at. And I think that's the challenge.
And I think, like you said, there's so many things that are thrown around luxury, right?
Yes.
You know, you hear it all the time. I'm a luxury real estate agent. Okay, well, tell me your portfolio. What do you have in there? What makes you a luxury real estate agent?
And I think going back to John Kerber and Dominion, there's no doubt he is producing luxury products. By any measurement, there's one for you.
Yes.
Great answer right there for Grayson's question. So your thoughts on advice to clients for the next 6 to 12 months? Be persistent, stay in the market, keep cracking, keep working, keep going after it. Is that what you're passing along to them?
Yeah, I think being competitive. We always want to look at what else is on the market if we're working with a seller to make sure that we're pricing in a way that's meeting their goal, whether they want to have the home sold as quickly as possible or if price is the priority for them. So it's really going back to those old conversations. We haven't used the muscles as much, but we've got some muscle memory, hopefully, and we can adapt and start having those conversations with clients. I think when you're looking at price reductions in 5 days, that's very different. And I think when it's working with buyers, it's just having these really good buyer consultations with them, thinking big picture about what their goals are. You know, if I had someone say, well, I'm only going to be living in Charlottesville for a year, we're going to have a very different conversation about home ownership than if it's someone who's thinking long term.
I just came back from a panel or a seminar at Virginia Beach, and one of the best takeaways that I took was the power of no, and having the ability to say that. It helps you so much, and it sets tones for people. When I'm having the conversation, I went on a listing appointment last week, and you know they told me they're interviewing 3 agents. One was out, and I'm in the top runner. And I was like, okay, great. And I said, just curious, what did the other agent come as far as pricing strategy? And they were about $100,000 over me. I'm like, wow, I was like, that seems a little bit high. And they said, yeah, we thought so too. And so when we're having these conversations, like I said, the power of no. I told them, I said, I may not be this, but this is honestly what I think your home is valued at. And I think having those realistic expectations and let them know exactly where you stand, and you know, like Jason said, the buyer consults, they're so important because you can tell if you're not a right fit for somebody or if their goals are not aligning with what they're sending you. I don't know how many agents have had clients send them houses and you're like, wait a minute, you said you needed at least a 2-car garage. This has no garage on it whatsoever. Has your needs changed just a little bit? So having those clear and like communicating conversations with your clients and being able to kind of call them, and they can call you on it too. You know, you're not sending me the right listing. Okay, fantastic, fair. Let me adjust that for you. But just having those conversations where you're in line and in tune with your clients is going to be the next important step in this next 24 months.
I think what's interesting is I had a buyer consultation a week and a half ago, and we're in this weird period in the market. So normally part of my spiel is to spend a good 15-20 minutes to talk about what a winning offer looks like. And the vast majority of my buyers have gotten their first pick of homes this year, which I'm very proud of, but I'm also proud of my buyers for being great listeners and following leads. What we're going back into this phase where if I am showing a home that's 30, 40 days on market, honestly, I'm kind of excited because whereas before we're talking about these interest rate problems, Jerry, and how it's impacting affordability, but what if we can get back to a spot where we can start negotiating closing costs again?
Oh, wouldn't that be nice?
This really actually could be a
back,
great
though, isn't
benefit.
It feels great.
I'm hearing from a lot of folks that it's back.
If I see a home on the market that hasn't sold right away, I'm thinking about it with my clients.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And this actually could be one of the best things that's happened to us in 24 months.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
I agree.
How many deals have you done where the buyer has had contingencies in play that were agreed upon? Recently?
Yeah. A good amount, you know.
Really?
Yeah, actually.
Home inspection, full inspection?
Home inspection. I got one for under list price not too long ago. Woo!
Closing costs?
So I got one this weekend with closing costs.
Jason?
No, mine have been more in very competitive situations.
Yeah.
So we had to go all in. However, every single one of my buyers got, at the very least, a simple inspection pass-fail process. I think there are only very special buyers who should be looking at waiving all inspections, and I think they should know more about homes than a home inspector does.
Amen
and
to
those
that.
are very few.
Yeah. I always encourage that. They'd be like, oh, we want to waive home inspection. I'll be like, okay, well, what's your experiences with homes? Have you ever worked on them before?
Yeah.
Have you at least looked at the piping underneath there? You know what's going on?
Yeah.
And it really, and Jerry, it really got back down to like, all right, if we want to run an inspection, we have to figure out how we're going to make it worth the seller's time. Yeah.
I like it. Nikki Chambless, what would you like to add here?
I think the big thing that I'm hearing here is having the conversations, right? And that's a normal thing we talk about on the show, whether it's you, Keith, regardless of guest, is having those conversations with your clients. And knowing what to talk about is key in that. And these two know what they're talking about. And they stay in the know. They stay in that market of the moment, right? And that's just key. If you're talking to someone and they don't seem to know, you might not be talking to the right person, right? I don't know. And if you feel like you don't know, talk to somebody. Like truly, before you go have those appointments.
How about
you want to be in the know.
One final question. This is for Lauren.
Yeah.
Is the expectation the outer counties are softening with gas prices going where they're going?
I have not seen that, Lauren, not yet. I think distance and affordability are really still the main drivers. People will go further for affordability, and I haven't had anyone talk to me about gas prices being a permanent fixture in their budget. Everyone's complaining.
Yeah.
No one's like, and it's never going to go back.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm not seeing that at all. You know, the market is softening somewhat. You know, as far as what. You know, you're not getting those 12, 15, it depends on where you are. I cover a large territory, so over the mountain you may still get 10 or 15 bids on a home, but here in the local market, those 10 bids that you were getting on that particular home, you may be getting 3 now. So it's softening a little bit, but it's across the board here. Anywhere within 45 minutes of Charlottesville, it's still a seller's market. It's still a good time to buy a home. I wouldn't worry about too much about the interest rates because they fluctuate and just across the board. Just figure out what's suited for you and your needs.
How about you, Nikki?
So when we're talking about gas prices, it's just the same. It is one of those things everybody's kind of grumpy about, but it's total low key. It's like there's always going to be something out there to kind of bitch and bone about, right? That's just the case. It happens to be gas right now. In a few months, it'll be something else. Mm-hmm. It's just that topic. It's like, oh, it's hot out. Actually, in a few months, it's totally what it's going to be. It's too hot. We're in Virginia. What is going on, right? But it is not something people are shifting big life plans around.
I like it. You guys are awesome.
Thank you.
Seriously, the show is just so easy when you guys come on. We got to do this panel again, Nikki.
Definitely. Okay, can I do another question?
Of course.
Because it being the day after Father's Day, right? How do you guys manage running your businesses? Because you run your businesses and you run them well. What do you each have 2?
I have 1.
Mm-hmm.
Spawn,
you got 2.
You've got 1 spawn.
2.
You each have 2. I use spawn as a very loving, endearing term. Obviously, I have older children, or I probably wouldn't say that.
I'm a very busy and active person, and I feel like I'm still building my business. I've been in this real estate game now for 5 years, 3.5 years full time. So I'm still working on my business. So I'm still out there grinding a whole lot. But I think it's about the quality of time. You know, when I'm there, I'm all in. So I'm trying to be there with my kids and connect with them. People say work-life balance. Listen, what I do, I'm truly blessed because I actually get to do something that I love to do, and it really doesn't feel like work. I know that sounds so cliche, but when I was swinging a hammer for 16 hours a day in the heat and in the cold, that felt like work, I can tell you that. And I was constantly away from my family. At this point, I know that I can show homes in the daytime / you know, as long as there's light out there or not. I've showed houses with flashlights before. But you know, I can at least be at home and in the presence of my family as I'm working on my laptop. I see my kids running around. I get to, you know, glance across the living room and see my wife on the couch. So, you know, it's one of those things. That is my work-life balance, and I don't think there's truly such a thing, work-life balance. But, you know, you take opportunities to spend quality time with those loved ones, and I think that's what makes it special.
Well said. Jason Kirby.
It's an interesting business because we don't really punch in and punch out. You know, the success in our business is all based on good, productive client-agent relationships. And so the tendency is that the more of those we have, the more successful we are. But there comes a point at which something is giving too much. Either your family is suffering or your clients are suffering. And so I think a good, healthy thing for every agent to do is to reach a point at which they know they're being very competent in their work, they're being successful and fulfilled, and their family's getting the attention they need. And I agree with Kerry, there is no balance. It's more of like a pendulum that swings one way and the other. When I'm with my clients, I am with my clients. And when I'm with my kids, with my kids. Maybe glancing at my phone on occasion if it's buzzing away. But I think part of this is going back to the conversation of being a business owner, regardless of what field you're in real estate, you're a business owner, and being in control of a business instead of it being in control of you. And Nikki, you made a good point. There are times when you have to hustle and go all in. In our industry, that used to be February through June, where we were like, hey, you're not going to see me for a while.
Is it every single day
but since
of the
COVID,
year?
It's been every single day, and I really feel for a lot of the agents out there that we've been going nonstop. It's been very hard. I do hope we kind of go back to a more of a normal rhythm where we can plan time away.
Greg Slater made the point on the show, and I believe Greg Slater's coming up on the show, of Nest, that he said what COVID did for realtors took away their weekends.
Well, that's because we allowed it to take away those things, though. Yeah. Because what I see realtors doing who are running their businesses more like businesses is when they have more clients than they're wanting to have in one moment. And I know that sounds crazy because there's never a max amount, except what does that quality of life look like, right? Having more business than ever does no one any good if you're killing yourself and you're not feeling good about it, right? So maybe that means referring out some business, having a group of other agents that you trust how they run their businesses, and referring some business out.
I think a lot of it comes from fear. Our income is so lumpy and unpredictable, but the more you're taking time out of every day to do the things you should be doing as an agent, to keep in touch with folks, you get a more predictable income, and you can forecast your year much better. And so when you get 10 calls in one day from new people, you know, hey, you know what, I can actually only manage 3. And let me see if Kerry's available to help a few. And Nikki's available to help a few. Because you realize, like, this isn't going to be the only people that call me ever. But when you're newer or you don't have control of your business, you jump on everything that comes your way. And therein lies madness, I think.
It does. And when you don't learn to grow from that, and honestly, I think new agents, and I'm speaking even to how I was as a new agent, I would have been better off had I not done that. And I learned so much by doing it, but I also spun my wheels a little bit before I realized, ooh, this isn't good. I'm not building my foundation first. I'm trying to build the framework to the house when really I need that foundation first.
Yeah. Jason, that's one of the things that I admire about you. When you tell me, oh, I can't take on any more buyers because I'm so busy right now, you know that is so powerful to me as somebody who's like, yeah, I got you, I'll take care of that, and I will, and I'll service the clients. Where Jason's like, well, no, I have too much on my plate right now, I'm not going to do this part of it. And I'm like, wow, that is so amazing right there. And he's a super successful agent when it comes to setting what his parameters are, and he does very well in his business. And I've taken a few of those things. Like I said, the power of no, it means so much, you know, and especially as a new agent, if I can teach them anything, it's just learn to where to spend your time. Some things are going to give you tenfold, some things are not going to give you anything. So,
great answer.
Yeah.
Dynamic here is excellent with this panel.
Oh, yeah. These
Keller
guys are
Williams
great.
Alliance is on point. Quinn Beckham, you're proud today. Fincham and Associates, a proud partner of today's show. Fincham and Associates. We also give props to Closure Title and Settlement Company, Keller Williams Alliance, Ross Mortgage Corporation, Scott Morris. We love that man. American Pest, Sigora Solar, Stanley Martin, all presenting partners of today's show. Nikki, thank you for today's panel.
Thank you for having us. This is
Thank
great.
you.
Yeah.
It was wonderful.
Fantastic.
Amanda Spagoni loved the show. You had 7 firms watching you guys today in Central Virginia.
When we really are a community.
Oh,
Realtors
I've noticed.
here. It's amazing.
Especially with the uncertainty on the horizon. You guys have like pulled in the wagons and the horses and the people, and you guys are rallying around together.
Yes.
Pouring into our people.
I'm totally seeing that.
Yeah.
Judah Wickhauer, thank you. The I Love CVille show is up in about an hour here on the I Love CVille Network. For Nikki and Kerry and Jason, I'm Jerry, and thank you for joining us on Real Talk with Keith Smith. Have a good morning. Take care. Hold on, guys.
Thank you.
He's going to tell us when the mics are off here.